First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that my husband isn't her husband? I'll just get straight to the issue. My, female 33, sister, female 28, recently rented an apartment in our neighborhood. She moved out after she broke off her engagement with her fiancé of 4 years. She has a demanding job, she works long hours, nurse, and added more days' work to be able to pay for rent. I'd cook her meals once to twice a week, and my husband would take them to her. I'd show up and clean the apartment for her out of respect for what she does, which is pretty stressful. I knew she has been struggling, so I did all I could. She'd come over whenever she has a day off, to thank us for giving her meals and helping her out with the apartment. However, after a week or so, I noticed my husband cooking whenever I say I didn't want to, saying my sister could use a homemade meal. I'd call him to see where he was, and he comes home to tell me my sister had him clean the basement so she could move the rest of her things. She called him and had him carry boxes for her for a whole day. She'd call him and not me to bring her a charger because she forgot hers at work. It's like she completely forgot about me. I went to have a talk with her, and she barely found a time to speak to me. I asked her why she didn't call me when she needed something but kept calling my husband. She said she didn't notice and that I must be busy with my son even though my husband would help with him too. I told her to call me if she needed something and let my husband get some rest from working all week. She said okay, but it got too much when she called my husband's phone while he was napping, and I answered for him. She told me her kitchen faucet needed fixing and was messing up her kitchen, and so she called my husband to help her fix it. I told her he was napping and wasn't feeling well since the morning, but she kept saying just a few minutes, it won't take long. I reminded her that she should have called my phone, but she said that fixing the faucet was men's work. Anyway, I gave her the number of a plumber we know, but she complained about plumbers taking a lot of money. I snapped and told her my husband isn't her husband that she could call whenever she needed something. That just because she lives near, she gets to have him work for her. She got upset, and I haven't spoken to her since this conversation. My mom knew and berated me saying she's my younger sister, that she's going through a lot and I needed to help her. She told me I hurt my sister with my comment and that I needed to apologize to her. Added to say that she rented a ground floor apartment. It has a storage room that looks like a basement, and it's obvious she's struggling with rent because I think it's expensive. But it was her decision, so I can't comment on that. Also, those of you asking about her calling her landlord to handle maintenance, I honestly didn't think about it because I never lived in an apartment, and I don't know whether her landlord is even aware of these issues. I should quickly resort to us for help. But I'm definitely bringing up to see what the issue is. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, but are you sure she really needed him to fix the faucet? I've been thinking the same thing. Same. Spontaneous basement cleaning seems more than a little suspicious. Your sister is not going to give herself limits, so you need to set boundaries with your husband. He needs to know how you're feeling and why you don't feel their relationship is appropriate. You sound like you're feeling insecure, which is fine, but you need to explain that what he's doing with your sister makes you feel bad. Not an a-hole. My husband is clearly feeling uncomfortable having to get things done for her and told me he needed a break, but couldn't tell her seeing how she has been struggling to adapt to her new routine. Honestly, not an a-hole. She crossed boundaries. She had a warning. She still did it. Reminding someone of that never hurts. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to help pay for my brother's surgery after he told me to get married 3 weeks after my wife passed away? My, male 34, wife, female 29, passed away this past year after battling breast cancer for 2 years. It was an incredibly difficult phase, and a lot has happened in such a short time. My family have been supportive of me and my wife before, but my brother was acting inappropriately and would sometimes hurt my wife with comments like, "You won't be upset if my brother got remarried," and would bring up husbands he knew who couldn't deal with their wife's illness and walked away. He constantly reminded her that I was a saint for sticking around instead of bailing out. I cut contact with him, but my mom pressured me into letting him come to the funeral 4 months after cutting contact. I started seeing him regularly at my family's house after the funeral. He'd sit in front of me and start talking about me feeling alone and needing help with being a widower, then casually suggested that I get remarried, and that was 3 weeks, less than a month after my wife was laid to rest. He even recommended a few friends that I needed to start talking to. I got into a huge argument with him, and I told him to his face that he was dead to me from that moment on, and I haven't seen him since then. My family thought what I said was cruel and were upset with me. He got engaged. I didn't show up. He got married, and I didn't show up either. I heard he has been in and out of the hospital for health issues related to a heart condition he's been dealing with his whole life. And I think this is one of the reasons why my family never holds him accountable for being harsh and inconsiderate. I got a call from my parents telling me my brother needed money for a surgery at the end of this month, and that everyone already paid X amount of money to help, and asked if I could contribute. I didn't want to discuss it, but they visited me and talked about me not even visiting my brother at the hospital, despite knowing the reason I went no contact. They said that it was wrong of me to not help him while others who has no blood relation to were helping. They wanted me to make it up to him and help pay for his surgery because no matter what happens, he's my brother. He's struggling and I needed to help him. They tried to argue when I brought up that he hurt me and my wife with his behavior. Then they said that they can't believe I'm being cruel and heartless. That was the last time we spoke. Now my sister is calling saying the same thing to me, pressuring me and saying I'm refusing to help out of spite. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Tell them you'll be happy to help his widow fill out her dating profile when he's gone. And if that shocks and horrifies them, well, maybe then they'll finally understand why he's not getting a second chance from you. This exactly. Why support the brother when he wouldn't support OP? Karma doesn't like stupid games and pays back in full. Not the a-hole. And the family can get over it and pay for their own son instead of expecting him to do it. Not the a-hole. He minimized the pain that you and your wife were going through, and now wants money to help him through a similar situation? Screw that. He very obviously has enough people to help him financially, without you being one of them. He should have been more sensitive to your situation, especially since he has health problems himself. He doesn't deserve you. I really don't understand why he'd behave like this towards people who suffer from illness when he's dealing with the same thing. I always thought he'd understand what others go through, but is always being harsh and insensitive, and clearly has no respect for people's feelings. Now, for the last story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my sister-in-law's partner in his own house? Sister-in-law is Kate. Sister-in-law's partner is Bob. My partner has a big family. We ended up together several years, and at first, the family didn't like me. This is because I was different to my partner's ex and her siblings' partners. What I mean by that is all the sisters have children, and their partners are not good fathers. Their own father left and returned, and then left and so on. So that was their norm. They saw me as strange for interacting well with my stepkids, kids that were not biologically my own. Over time, they came to accept me and realized how I was interacting with my stepkids was good. Even Kate's own children loved me. Her youngest, which is 2 years old, adores me, which Kate found unusual as he normally stays away from men. I assume that's because with a family full of females and absentee fathers, it's hard to get used to males, but easily fixed when you ride down a slide. Until yesterday, I had never met Bob. He never attended family gatherings and was often working away. The rest of the family don't like him, and even Kate herself prefers when he is working away. But due to everything that has happened, he is in the house 24/7. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, as they once thought the same of me. I was wrong. Yesterday, I dropped the kids over hers for a week while my partner goes into hospital. Once I dropped her off, I went back to Kate's, as she lives close to the hospital. Kate took my kids to pick up her youngest from nursery, and said I can wait in her house. She told Bob, and out she went. As soon as that door closed, he came straight downstairs and squared up to me. He told me that this is his house and he is in charge. That his kids are his and I need to stay away from them. He was practically screaming. It went on for about 10 minutes and I stayed quiet. There was no chance of me getting a say in. Kate came home and Bob was all smiles. So I asked Kate if there was something wrong with Bob while he was in the room. She asked why and I explained all that happened. I asked her if he was insecure about something, if he thought I was trying to take his kids. She saw red and berated him. He didn't have a reason for reacting that way. Hell, he couldn't even get anything out. He stood there, shell-shocked. I feel bad about how I handled it, but at the same time, nothing I did warranted his behavior. First time I even met him. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is perfect. He clearly ain't the boss in the house. Exactly. Thank God she stood up to her husband. He is way out of line, not the a-hole. What Bob did was a dominance display, trying to show you he is the boss, as you yourself point out. By bringing it up in front of Kate, you completely undercut his attempt and showed you are not to be threatened. That said, he is not going to like you for it, although that would have been a losing battle anyways. Just be wary of him escalating, not the a-hole. P.S. You're also probably right that it comes from a place of insecurity. But that's his problem, so don't let him make it your problem. Not the a-hole. You are a legend. I'm just picturing him going absolutely berserkers on you. Then Kate comes back, and you casually ask, "So, what's wrong with this guy?" In front of him. Legend. Her flipping out on him is just icing on the cake. The guy tried acting tough, but crumbled like a cookie when his wife got in his face. Clearly, something is wrong with him, and you're probably right about it being an insecurity of some sort.